In 1993, while being with his mother who had Alzheimer's, Al Thomas found a place in the woods to build something. She watched as he built what he and his friends called the timber frame folly, or the folly. Ever since, people have come there to sing, give poems to the moon, play with puppets and fireflies, to wed, and more. Little did Al know when the spirit recruited him that just a few hundred yards away and 120 years earlier in a house, a poetic woman wrote down her poem, which she called Follyland. Her name was and is Danske Dandridge. He heard her.
Jim Surkamp has made videos of her life, and he's the one that turned me on to her poetry in the first place. And so, I think it was last week or so, he emailed me this poem that he just discovered of Danske Dandridge, called Follyland. So I've turned it into a song, and it kind of captures the spirit of the magic of this place. Okay. So anyway, here goes. This is a new song. I've never done it before.
In Follyland, what witchery, what pretty looks, what eyes there be, what gamesome ways, what dimpled smiles, what lissom limbs, what frolic wiles, what easy laughter, fresh and clear, what pranks to play, what jest to hear. Old time forgets to shake his sand. The days go tripping hand in hand in Follyland, in Follyland. In Follyland, one idle hour, the moonlight had a wizard power. Its eerie glamour turned my brain. I would that I were there again. We stood together 'neath the sky. A bird was chirping drowsily. He smiled, he sighed, he held my hand. Ah me, ah well, we understand. 'Twas Follyland, 'twas Follyland. My sober friend, how worn your looks. Your heart is in your moldy books. Here's half a cobweb on your brow. I seldom see you jovial now. Fling down your volumes and be free to take a pleasure trip with me. Come, here's my heart and here's my hand. We'll launch our skiff and seek the strand of Follyland, of Follyland. What pretty looks, what eyes there be, what gamesome ways, what dimpled smiles, what lissom limbs, what frolic wiles, what easy laughter, fresh and clear, what pranks to play, what just to hear old time forgets to shake his hand. The days go tripping hand in hand in Follyland, in Follyland, in Follyland, in Follyland, in Follyland.
Get that you're seeing this. This is not part of the show. No, I think it is part of the show. Yeah, we're light with it. Shadow puppeteering.
What is a stir where the shadows are dense? Something that baffles the curious sense. Something that shimmers and whispers and sighs. Something that glimmers to far-reaching eyes. The shape of a song, or the soul of a stream, or a being awake from a beautiful dream, is pulsing and stirring and making prelude in the reverent heart of the reverent, reverent. Is it a word that I never have heard? Is it a hint of a jubilant bird that never was hinted before? Oh, what can it be that is new in the world, that thrills with its meaning but half understood, a rapture and more? A sound is created that never the breeze has carried till now to the city of trees. Fresh tidings from God, a new message is sent, though I know not what delicate instrument. And I would I had senses as fine as a sprite to hear and interpret the message aright. But I think, oh I think, as I fall on my knees, God is walking and talking again mid the trees. God is walking and talking again mid the trees.
The day is closing. It has been a golden day, full of rest. Now, I must go tend my flowers. Sometimes, when confined to the house by illness, or on stormy winter days, I have felt as restless as a caged wild animal. But out of doors, I'm in my proper place, like the free wild animal in the jungle. I am so glad that we have had a heavy rain, because I was beginning to feel quite wicked about it. It began when I woke up early this morning. The sound of the patter of big drops on the tin roof of the veranda outside my window was such an unusual one that I could scarcely believe my ears. It seemed too good to be true. Soon it became a steady downpour that has washed away all my discontent. It rained until 1 o'clock, softly but sufficiently. One such rain as that a week would keep the garden fresh all summer. I'm glad that I can dig and plant and weed as much as I please and shock nobody, not even the gardener. For I am the gardener myself, and not easily shocked at that. And I am sure I enjoy my flowers all the more because I have prepared cradles for them, and assisted them at their birth, and helped them at every stage from tiny seedlings to lovely blossoming maturity. One sumptuous oriental poppy, fully 8 inches across, has just unpacked her thin silk dress of flowing vermilion. It's the one note of brilliant color, the highlight that the picture needed. This blossom, erect on a stalk 4 feet in height, has 6 petals, while the others have but 4. The poppy is a very careless packer. Her fine dress came out of its trunk in many crumples, which take her maid, the breeze, several hours to smooth. But she does not care. Beautiful, disorderly creature that she is. Oh, blessed people who see their gods spring up in their gardens. If any flower were worthy of worship, it would be the Madonna lily, also called the Annunciation lily, first brought to earth, according to the legend, by the angel who came to prepare Mary for the Savior's birth. This lily is the type of passional purity, not passionless purity, which is a poor, tame thing. The warm, throbbing purity of the innocent girl is a different thing, and a better thing, according to my way of thinking, than the cold chastity of the nun. This is what the lily typifies, this passional purity, with its rich fragrance and unspotted whiteness. The cinnamon rose is always the first to bloom at rosebreak. A pretty little Scotch briar is the second, and the hollyhocks have proved that they, too, have heroic souls. Only all the best clumps have been eaten by the cows, who've developed an extraordinary appetite for hollyhocks. Oh, I wish I could tell my flowers how much they help and comfort me. And yet, who knows? Perhaps they understand. They look as if they did. Yes, there is certainly an understanding between us. I love to water them most when they're in distress. Do they not breathe lovely confidences into my ears every day? And do I not open my heart as freely to them? No one who has a garden of flowers to love and to be loved by need complain about being misunderstood. When I go to the garden with my troubles, the flowers know just what to do. They don't say a word. They don't torment me with senseless conversation. They just look at me. And their beauty makes me forget my cares. And their smiles restore me to cheerfulness. And their fragrance refreshes me and strengthens me to bear what I must. And so I go away serene again and thanking God for my garden. Surely, ugliness is the only sin of which flowers are capable, and that is usually man's fault, who will not leave nature alone. If I could carry out all my fancies, I would have garden parties when certain flowers were in bloom. In May, I would have a violet fete, a fete of roses in June, and of lilies in July, and perhaps a fete of yuccas on some moonlit evening. In November, I would invite all my friends to a chrysanthemum party. The tables should be set on the lawn and decorated with the flowers of the day. Last night was a beautiful one. The moon was in her second quarter, and the sky was mottled with fleecy cloudlets. We counted 38 buds on the evening primrose, ready to unfold. All the family, some house guests and a caller were there to enjoy the pretty spectacle. About 7:30, the show begins, and we take chairs in the orchestra circle to watch the performance. One after another, then 2 or 3 at a time, the buds, neatly rolled in their long green calyxes, began to stir, to swell, to burst slowly open. The calyxes fell back with a graceful movement. There was no hurry and no delay. The whole plant was in tremulous motion, although there was no breeze. At last, she stood arrayed in the full glory of her blossomhood, and a delightful, penetrating odor diffused from every delicate flower. The flowers are pale lemon yellow. This is only one of the many pleasures for which we have to thank our garden. Pure, elevating, refined. Every night, for a long time to come, there will be more blossoms, for there seem to be hundreds of buds. Come down from thine aerial height, spirit of the summer night. Come softly stepping from the slender moon, where thou dost lie upon her gentle breast, and bring a boon of silence and of solace for our rest. I can see great streams of people going up the state road in front of Rosebreak to the agricultural fair a half-mile away. A great crowd is not an enlivening spectacle, especially when it's a crowd of hard-working, stolid farmer folk. Honest, worthy farmers and their wives. Every one is hot and tired and begrimed with dust. Women carry lunch baskets and heavy babies, and the young girls drag their best white skirts in the dust. It's a very quiet crowd. All look as if they were seeking something that they cannot find. The middle-aged women wear large black straw hats, and black cotton dresses hang limply around their shapeless figures. I sat a long time watching them. Some little boys and girls and some of the Negroes were the only ones who looked gay. The farmers all have a patient, dogged air, like their own cattle. They work so hard. They have so little, yet they seem happy enough in their own homes. The crowd was overawed by the crowd. I think that was it. The expression of a city crowd is much brighter, gayer, and more reckless. Used to contact with strangers, such contact no longer depresses, but exhilarates. Men and women, like precious metals, are brightened by friction. But country people are like metals in the rough. After watching the crowd a long time without seeing one mature face that expressed hope or happiness, I felt overpowered with a sense of the nothingness of all things. I could no longer see the sunken, sunburnt cheeks of the men, their mouths stained with tobacco, their coarse store clothes, the ample figures of the elderly women with their stolid, care-lined faces, or the fresh, thoughtless countenances of the young men and women, except through a mist of pity and hopelessness. Pity is good, but hopelessness is useless. So I came away. O strong oaks, O blue mountains, O winds of heaven, O infinite mysterious sky, how holy and how healing and how hopeful you are after that. Dear men and women, the universe belongs to you. Look up and be helped and comforted. Although its residents abuse Shepherdstown very much and are frequently heard to wish passionately that they lived anywhere else, yet it exercises a curious fascination over all who have once found it out. They come back to it again and again. But I call Shepherdstown gruesome because it keeps up the old custom of tolling the church bell for a funeral. The biggest thing belonging to Dawdleton, or Shepherdstown, is its graveyard, which lies on the turnpike between Rosebreak and the village. The farmer folk for many miles around lay their dead in this old graveyard, and deaths so common that one or the other of the 7 church spires announces a new one nearly every day. You pause involuntarily in whatever you may be doing to count the strokes. What with the rows of tombstones in full view from my hammock, and with all this tolling, I am in no danger of forgetting my latter end. This custom of Shepherdstown does not tend to promote hilarity in its inhabitants.
Shall we know in the hereafter all the reasons that are hid? Does the butterfly remember what the caterpillar did? How he waited, toiled and suffered to become the chrysalid. When we creep so slowly upward, when each day new burden brings, when we strive so hard to conquer vexing sublunary things, when we wait and toil and suffer, we are working for our wings. When we wait and toil and suffer, we are working for our wings. Suffered to become the chrysalid. When we creep so slowly upward, when each day new burden brings, when we strive so hard to conquer vexing sublunary things, when we wait and toil and suffer, we are working for our wings. When we wait and toil and suffer, we are working for our wings.
When I go out to the hammock in the leisurely afternoon, I debate within myself what spirit shall be my companion. Books are mediums, and by them we live in communion with the spirits of the absent or the departed. For the garden, I want very choice company. Jeffers, Thoreau, Burroughs, and among poets, Chaucer, Spencer, Wordsworth are favored guests. My test for a book in the summer is, will it do to read under the trees? Almost all good poetry is adapted to out-of-door reading. All that rings false or hollow, all novels of fashionable life or ignoble ambition are as out of place in the grave and reverent company of trees as a painted and bedizened woman of the world would be. History cannot peacefully be read in the hammock because it's too harrowing. The grove is no fit arena for marchings and counter-marchings, massacres and bloody victories. I choose my companions very carefully for this, my hour or two of peace after the work of the day is over. I do not want any book that would jar the quiet harmony of sky and cloud and treetops, or disturb the brooding calm of the hills. Pure, not true strenuous love stories gain a fresh charm read in this manner, and so do fairy stories and romances, for which I still have a weakness. I think I will have to complete my shelf with children's books, such as Hans Christian Andersen. and Hawthorne's Wonder Book, and Mrs. Ewing's stories, at least the most cheerful of them. After all, we have to go to the children's bookcases for cheerfulness nowadays. It has not yet become the fashion to write pessimistic literature for them, thank heaven. When children's books become morbid, I will no longer have any hope for the human race. Lillian Whiting says that it's everyone's duty to be happy. The young ladies scour the country in search of amusement, going 10 miles to a dance, and coming home to lie in bed all the morning. I stay quietly in my hammock, and not amusement, but better far, her sister, enjoyment, comes to me unsolicited. She floats on the swan-white clouds, glows in the sunsets, rises in the pages of books. She closes my eyes at night, wakes up with me in the morning, and her other name is Content.
We ramble on the stream and I, still singing, still companionless. We run to find beneath the sky some arid spot, some life to bless. The brook is dreaming of the sea, but I, fond spirit, dream of thee. The brook's bright waters flow and flow, all lush and green, his track appears, and it is given me to know some choral of the chanting spheres. Our lives are tuneful as the birds, with rippled song and gentle words. And if sometimes we lurk apart in secret grot or covert dale, to bide a space and gather heart, anon we're laughing down the vale. Through rain or tears our forces swell, we find the sun, and all is well, all is well. Through rain or tears our forces swell, we find the sun, and all is well. The stream and I.
I wish that a society for the suppression of nuisances could be formed in every country neighborhood, and that it would take stringent measures to suppress the unwelcome guest. In this part of the world, the door of one's house is supposed to be always wide open to all comers. We have to keep up the traditions of our ancestors before the war. And because the southern planters were flooded with visitors all summer, we too, in spite of changed conditions of things, must observe the sacred laws of hospitality, however inconvenient they may be. In the north, they are wiser than we and do these things better. You are invited for a certain number of days, and you don't overstay your time. You don't go unless you are asked, and presumably You are not asked unless you are wanted. It is far otherwise with us. Oh, if a relation, no matter how distant, or a friend of a relation, or a friend of a friend, or a friend of a friend's relation comes within 50 miles of you, you are bound to invite him or her, it is almost always her, to your house for an indefinite stay. The cook may be ill or non-existent. The children may all have the measles. You may be half dead yourself, but no matter. Nothing matters, except that the laws of hospitality be not infringed. When your guest, after driving you to the verge or over the verge of nervous prostration, finally wearies of you and proposes to depart in search of new victims, you must set your teeth and urge her to stay, as if your future salvation depended upon it. When you have guests, you must not leave them to their own devices an hour. You cannot go and shut yourself into your room for a quiet morning's work. You cannot laze in the hammock through a long afternoon. You must exert yourself to be entertaining every minute of the day and half the night, except when you are preparing delicacies in the kitchen over a steaming stove. It is always the hottest weather that the unwelcome guest makes her appearance. It is so easy for husbands to be hospitable. When time is up, he insists upon a longer stay, and that so urgently that he will not take no for an answer. He does not have to keep house, nor instruct the cook in the art of dessert making when the kitchen thermometer marks 98 degrees. He is only conscious of an agreeable listener to the stories his wife got tired of so many years ago. And he enjoys eating the desserts. The unexpected guest is almost always the unwelcome guest. Oh, the wish to escape from the untimely visitor has often inspired me with the desire to live in a tree. Everyone should have some safe refuge from the cares and trials of housekeeping. If I could manage it, I would have a secret stair built in the heart of our giant oaks, which should lead to an area at the summit, hidden from all eyes. Into this peaceful nest I would disappear upon occasion, say, just as undesirable carriage wheels were heard approaching the house. From my airy perch, I would calmly survey the coming and going of the curious, myself unseen, unheard. How cool, how carefree, how bird-like I would be in my safe seclusion. I'm afraid I should burst into song for very glee, and thus betray my secret. Last night, I lay alone in the darkening garden. It was very still, except for the shrilling of the crickets and cicadas, and the beat of hoofs and rolling of wheels on the high roads that came up to me, softened by the distance. The head of the house was away. The servants had gone to their cabins. The moths flitted about the evening primroses and the 4 o'clocks. The climbing rose on the fence bloomed in many white clusters with a faint odor of musk. The jasmine nearby made the air heavy with fragrance, and many groups of white spicosum lilies and white phlox glimmered in the growing dusk. It grew late, and I waited for the moon to rise. She came at last, sending her white radiance in advance, blanching the thin clouds above her in the eastern sky. It seemed a fire on the mountains at the first glimpse of her. Slowly, she rose, shedding her waning light upon the garden. The night was so beautiful and so calm that I felt awed. And as I lay in the stillness, I thought of all the old house had known and of my life there, step by step. How I had played under the oaks of the grove and wandered about the fields with my brother, all the long, careless days of childhood. We invented games for every part of the place, a special one for the back piazza, another for the front veranda, a most exciting one called Beer and Lion for the upstairs passage and communicating bedrooms on rainy days. The rock breaks in the fields were our kingdoms, and a field of corn a mighty unexplored forest in which we lost our way. And then they all came back to me, all the dear faces that I had loved long since and lost a while. The garden was peopled with them, my friends of the long ago. They were all there, father, mother, sister, and radiant child, and many others, friends, playmates, teachers. They moved about softly with gentle steps, and they filled the circle of vacant chairs by the hammock left by the guests of the afternoon. I was not troubled nor afraid. The dim white figures came and went so tranquilly. They smiled at me so tenderly, and all their faces wore a look of pity and love. It was an exalted dreaming, but it seemed to me that each one had brought me a blessing, and that I received consolation and uplifting from each. I thought of the broad charity, the warm-hearted generosity and unsullied honor of one, the beautiful helplessness and unselfishness of another, the brother's heroic spirit, the sister's nobility, and the joyous innocence of the child. And I besought them to help me to grow every day worthier to be one of them. They nodded gravely and kindly, and then it was as if they joined hands and sang together words of heavenly promise and benediction. They faded slowly away, up, where the white clouds waited for them, and the pure voices sounded fainter and fainter, and I awakened from my reveries and went very slowly and softly into the house, and left the old garden to watch, in the moon's company, through the tranquilly summer night.